Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Extra Time, a little sibling to our main Sunday session, a resource with some questions you might like to ponder in follow-up to what we've been exploring earlier. Now, there was a fair bit to consider in the session as we looked at seasons and stress, and we'll come on to the stress part in a moment, but by way of plugging us in for now, after a wet spring and a long hot summer, we're now in the middle of autumn, a season where nature winds down a little in preparation for a recharge over winter. And so, a question for us to kick things off. Of the 4 seasons of the year, which is your favourite season and why? Now, each of us are different, and our ability to handle and even thrive on different levels of stress will vary greatly from one person to another. Human nature and our hunter-gatherer origins seem to prompt either a fight or a flight response to stress, to get stuck in or to run away from a situation we're facing. Sometimes, though, there's a third F, in that it's also possible to freeze like a rabbit in the headlights when faced with stress. Indeed, there have been some wildly different ways in which we'll have experienced the ups and downs of the last 6 months or more as we live through this pandemic. And so here's a couple of questions to consider, thinking of perhaps both your experience this year, but also of your life in more general terms. What would you say are the major causes of stress for you? And then thinking perhaps of the ways a certain level of stress enables us to respond in constructive ways. What do you recognise as some of the positives of the stress you experience? In the session, we drew on the work of 2 sisters, Emily and Amelia Nagoski, and in particular their book on burnout. In the book, they described the way in which stress is intended to ebb and flow in and out of our lives. As we've been saying, a level of stress is often necessary for us to function and be productive, but having served its purpose, we then need to find ways to enable that stress to leave our bodies in order to free up our capacity to handle stress the next time we encounter it. The problems with stress arise when we get stuck in it, when this stress cycle gets blocked because we're unable to find ways for the impact of whatever stress we've experienced to be alleviated. And so I wonder for you, what are the telltale signs in your life that stress is overloading you? Now, we spent a fair bit of time thinking about the 7 different ways which the Nagoski sisters suggest are key to enabling our stress cycle to find completion. Ways to ensure the stress we've experienced can be left behind. Just to recap, those 7 ways were physical activity, positive social interaction, laughter, crying, physical affection, creative expression, and breathing. Now we'll leave these up on the screen, but which of these 7 ways to complete a stress cycle appeal to you? And then secondly, which ones have worked in the past? And which ones do you think you'd find it hardest to adopt? With each of these 7 ways to complete our stress cycles, we considered ways in which they were reflected in Jesus' life during his time on earth. I don't know if you've particularly put Jesus and stress together before in your mind, but it's an interesting exercise to reflect on how Jesus handled all that life threw at him. Indeed, in light of what we've been looking at, perhaps consider this question. How do you imagine Jesus dealt with stress? And what might this have to teach us about our own faith? And then finally, for now, it'd be good to close by considering the ways in which we might be of service to those around us in working through the stress they may be experiencing. And so a last outward-looking question for now. How might we empower and assist those closest to us in embracing these stress cycle completing practices? Alright, we'll put the lid on things there for today. Thanks very much for engaging with this stuff, and I hope it's been a helpful session. Indeed, may God bless you with finding ways to complete whatever stress cycles you or those you're close to encounter in this season we're in. Take care, and let's get together again soon.